Okay, please give me a minute.
Mhm. It shows here that we are live on Facebook, but
Yes, yes.
okay, good. All right. Okay. So welcome, dear all, to EWB Thursday webinar series. And every Thursday, we welcome professional speakers who are joining virtual, yes, sessions of EWB. And we always welcome all our speakers who come with their food to our table. And again, yes, this food for thinking, for empowering, and also for becoming a better educator. And we always welcome great professionals to join our Thursday webinars. And today we are so excited to welcome Dr. Bruce Rubin. So, he is the first speaker, I mean, a new speaker to EWB Thursday webinars. And Mr. Bruce, he is going to talk about visual literacy using photographs to teach critical thinking. I think this is the most essential skill nowadays because AI is around, yeah, and so many technology is being, yeah, kind of captivating our attention. And also, yeah, we are being captivated by them as well. And we are so excited to welcome, yeah, to EW Thursday webinar, and we hope to see you someday in person in Tajikistan. Yeah, and thank you so much for delivering this webinar free of charge, and also generously sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and also your experience with English language educators in Tajikistan. And we usually call these online sessions of EWB investment time for professional development. So, because we believe that teachers, when they get together and share, they get more empowered. And for those of you who are not familiar with our speaker, Mr. Bruce Rubin has taught English to international students and immigrants for over 30 years, and he has conducted a wide range of training workshops for English language educators and is one of the authors of Inside Reading, a highly regarded academic English textbook series published by Oxford University Press. If you don't have this textbook, go and grab it. Maybe you'll find yeah, some of these books, because I believe that whatever is published by Oxford University Press, this is really worth reading. And Mr. Rubin lives in Southern California. His academic home is California State University, Fullerton, where he currently lectures in the arts and humanities while also teaching for the TESOL, Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages, master's degree program. So our audience is also familiar with TESOL because in EWB we also kind of serve as a bridge for bringing TESOL standards to local yes, educators. And yeah, your input and also your contribution means a lot to us. We really appreciate everything you do. And with great pleasure, I encourage all of our participants who are watching right now us via Zoom and also on Facebook to stay active and to get engaged, and also to ask questions to our speaker after his presentation. And yes, over to you, Mr. Bruce Rubin. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that really nice introduction. And this is my first contact with Tajikistan, even though I've had many students from around the world over the years, but I honestly can't remember having any from your country. So this is one of my great pleasures and satisfactions as an English language teacher is getting to meet the world. It's been a goal of mine since I was a student, really, to know the world. And so this is another great opportunity for me. I like to welcome everybody from Tajikistan, but I see also we have people from other countries on Facebook, and I welcome all of you. I'd like to say again how much I appreciated being able to sit in on your webinar 2 weeks ago, which was not only interesting for me to get a feeling for how you guys work, but also was just so helpful and informative on the subject of using AI in the English language classroom. And I may come back to that in about 2 weeks when I do one more webinar for you. But tonight we're going to focus on something I've enjoyed doing for a long time, and I hope it's not too basic for you guys. I know we have some university professors in the mix, and I know that critical thinking is nothing new for some of you. I doubt that using photographs is anything new for most of you. It's something that many beginning teachers use, especially in lower level classes for reasons we'll talk about. But perhaps the mix of critical thinking and photographs is not as common. And also near the end, I'll give you some PowerPoint slides as a kind of reference where we can talk about some very specific language that's very important for understanding and expressing critical thinking in English. But anyway, my basic purpose again tonight is to provide a classroom technique for using photographs successfully, giving you a couple of options, and I'll be sharing my PowerPoint. I have several opportunities for chat box responses, but I'm absolutely fine with anybody raising a hand and saying what they wish to say at any moment. Yes, this kind of event is perhaps the greatest resource. Yes, there are great materials to be found online, but I think the opportunity for us to talk with each other is really, really valuable. So uh, let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll just tell you in a little more detail what we're going to talk about. And I hope everybody can see that okay. And again, I call this visual literacy because, in a way, it is like reading, except instead of reading a text, you're reading a photograph, you're analyzing it. And yes, AI has made the world of photography even trickier than it used to be. But you know what? It's always been a little bit tricky. From the very beginning of photography as a modern medium, which started in the mid 19th century, photographers were able to alter their photographs either in the old school negative with a piece of film. They could brush things out or change things. But today it's very, very easy to fix a photograph or change it. So you really have to keep we say your critical thinking antenna. You need to keep them engaged at all times. So I'm going to start with, let me see. Here we go. The now this is a way of saying I'm going to define critical thinking just a little bit. Again, I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to ask in just a few minutes. I'm going to ask Zuro to launch a survey just to see how everybody feels about critical thinking. But I will provide a slide or two to say, well, what do I mean? I get this question all the time from colleagues and students here. What is critical thinking really? It's such a broad topic and perhaps misnamed because of that word critical. It certainly doesn't mean you have to criticize or anything. It just means you're analyzing a little bit. But photographs are especially useful for critical thinking, for teaching specific target language items, and also for providing a kind of springboard, or we say launching pad for creative thinking. I'll talk a little bit about how to select and analyze photos that are appropriate for the classroom. I will do a demonstration of the teaching process with your participation, and I'll again offer you a reference guide to the language of critical thinking. Again, during this first part, we'll have a short poll in a moment. Then I will talk for just a few minutes, and maybe you can use that to get adjusted to my rhythm of speaking. And perhaps some of you are not as familiar with an American accent. I've heard that before. You may be more accustomed to British accents or other forms of English. So it'll give you just a minute to relax and listen before you participate. But please feel free to participate at any time. So let me, Zero, give me 1 second here. I'm going to preview the poll, and this is just for my own personal interest. How do you feel about critical thinking? Zero's going to give you a poll in just a minute, and you'll have two parts. Part A, how do you feel about it in general? And you have three choices here. I've never heard of it. I've heard of it, but I'm not sure what it is. I like it, and I use it in my daily life. And then part B, how do you feel about critical thinking in the language classroom? Well, I understand the value of critical thinking, but my students don't have the language skills to practice it in English. That could be true. However, I'm going to make the case later that anybody can do critical thinking at any level. And then my students have the language skills to practice critical thinking, but they're not accustomed to doing it. Or my students have the necessary English skills, and I encourage them to practice critical thinking in the classroom and in daily life. So this is the poll. Zero, whenever you're ready, perhaps you could launch the poll for me. Thank you. Oh, that's perfect. It looks like we have about 18 participants, so I'm hoping you guys can see the poll and put in your responses. I'm not seeing any answers yet, but maybe is that maybe you are.
I can see the results, but
You can?
yeah, I
Maybe.
mean, just I mean, just people are still voting because out of 17, only 10, yes, have voted. I mean, just
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I see it now. I
yeah,
see
yeah,
it
yeah.
now.
You
Great.
see that? Okay, good.
Yes. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. So I can scroll up and down for you to be able to see, and then like, yeah, if you want to comment on them, just go
That's
ahead.
great.
Mhm. I think like, yeah, the number stuck. We can just do the analysis. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take a look at it again if you one more time if you wouldn't mind, and then we'll continue.
Okay. You see that?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. Okay,
Mhm.
good. And so far, this is looking pretty typical. Everyone appears to have heard of critical thinking. There's a lot of talk about it and has been for some time. But then after that, it's a pretty even split between those who have heard of it but are not entirely comfortable with it, and those who seem to be quite comfortable and are using it frequently.
Mhm.
So that's great. Uh,
And for the question two
mhm.
here. So yeah, kind of, yeah, we have again the breakdown between these three options. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Okay, Nasiba, should I just go on now
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
can talk
yeah,
about this
yeah.
later? Okay.
Okay, let me just,
Okay.
yeah, okay. Close this. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll look at the results again later, but that does seem, as I said, pretty typical. Everybody, as far as I can see, has heard of critical thinking, but you have different levels of comfort in your own lives or in your classroom. Now, here I'm going to just throw out a lot of information at you quickly, and you don't have to try to figure it all out now. But I've divided critical thinking into a few major areas. The first is what I call macro skills, things that are really wide and general. We say the metaphor cast a big net and are very useful for doing a lot of things. And by the way, this comes from a sequence that was first published in the TESOL journal about 15 years ago. And I put that at the end of the PowerPoint as a reference for you if you care to look. But here it involves observing, analyzing, understanding, synthesizing. These are kind of major cognitive skills that we wish to encourage with critical thinking. And then more specific learning goals like asking a lot of questions. Again, that's your role as a teacher, but this is something you want to stimulate, motivate, encourage in your students. Get them to ask questions of themselves and to discover and clarify, and also to encourage them to use logic and reason to evaluate information. And then we have applications. And here, yes, critical thinking, very important for decision making, problem solving, assessing or revising, especially assessing reading or assessing listening, revising your own speech, revising your own writing. And then the last one, and perhaps one of the more enjoyable aspects of critical thinking is the way it can lead you to imagine alternative possibilities or create stories and interesting narratives. This is something students often really enjoy. And it's something you can do, as I'll say again, something you can do in groups. They enjoy looking at photographs and creating stories together. In language terms, I do like to emphasize that critical thinking is a kind of information loop where you're carefully monitoring what you say. And when you're saying it, you're giving clues as to how much certainty you have, how much credibility you give this information. And it also means uh, evaluating the information that you hear. So again, it's careful evaluation of information and careful sharing of it. For materials, you want to look for materials that promote questioning and reasoning. And you want to look for exercises that enhance both language development and cognitive or brain development. All of us need a little cognitive development throughout our lives, and I think it's especially important, maybe especially important at the start of life and near the end of life when we sometimes begin to lose a little cognitive power. But more importantly, for your purposes, I think these exercises can make the language class more interesting and engaging. And you look for items in these exercises that feature specific critical thinking language, vocabulary, and grammar. There's a lot of it, and I'll share some of that with you near the end of my presentation. language that can be useful in the classroom for modeling and teaching. And we'll be talking about some of that during our demonstration. And you want to, I'm sorry for my two that's here, strategies that emphasize careful evaluation of reading and listening and careful sharing in writing and speaking. Careful sharing, careful evaluation of information in English. Okay, I thought we'd quickly go to the chat box here for a few questions. I'm just curious, how often do you use photographs in class? What level are you teaching at? Do you use these for third graders or fourth graders, or do you use them at the university, or do you use them in high school? And what is your purpose for using photographs? There are many purposes, of course, in the language classroom. And yes, some of you may be using for critical thinking, but you may have other uses too. So let's take a look. Feel free to respond. I'm going to take a look here. Yes, thank you, Fernando, for that summary of the importance of critical thinking. Yep, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce everyone's name correctly, but looks like Takmina, thank you for that also statement of what critical thinking is, identifying the given task and analyzing it. Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, very nice. Some of you, especially for Fernando Akiza, very familiar with critical thinking. And yes, thank you. EWB, I use, I guess that's Nasiba perhaps. I use visuals for warm-ups. Yes, level B2. Excellent. Yeah. Sometimes for beginners to check their speaking. Visual aids, of course. Yep. Almost every lesson. Yes, very good. That's from Jumagul. To activate schematics. Yes, excellent. All levels, brainstorming, predictive, story writing, creative writing. Ah, really great. Anybody else have anything to add there? The stimulating discussion. Yeah. Observe carefully, describe what they see, express opinions, share ideas. So I'm getting a little worried now that I have nothing new to
Okay.
offer you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and we'll continue. All right, very good. Art gallery techniques. Yes, extending vocabulary. We're going to be looking at all those
Can
things.
you
Excellent.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, my name is Sadbar.
Yes,
I would
excellent.
like to. Can we be back to the previous slide? I'm sorry, to the next slider.
This one?
Yeah, the slides are changed.
Or was it this one?
Sadbark, you can speak. Yeah, in the meantime, you can speak what you wanted to say. Just go ahead.
Okay. Sudberg, were you going to say anything more or shall I continue? Okay, I'll continue, but I see we got a few more things in the chat box there about teaching art, culture, and other topics in a creative way. Excellent. And prediction and vocabulary. Very good. Okay, so uh, obviously we have many purposes for using photographs, and it sounds like you're using them at a variety of levels and for a variety of purposes. Now, here I ask the question, why use photographs? Oops, I'm sorry. And there are a few good reasons. First, you don't need a lot of language to get started with photographs. You can use these with beginning students, as some of you have noted. And you don't really require much background knowledge for analyzing images. Photographs can help clarify the relationship between guessing, thinking, and knowing. Okay, so these are three important categories or distinctions in our levels of certainty about information we receive. And then the emotional power of photographs is often, as you guys have said, very stimulating. At the same time, in English, we have a phrase that most of my students here in America have heard 100 times. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, yes and no. It is worth 1,000 words, and that's why it's so valuable to us in the language class. But it's also often really ambiguous and really often poses more questions than it answers. So that also makes it very useful. The photograph makes is very useful for providing opportunities for practicing critical thinking, creative thinking, and specific language targets. So let's try looking at a photograph and talking simply about how we would deal with it in class. So here's the photograph in question. It's historical, as you see in black and white. So perhaps we're missing one opportunity to talk about colors in the photograph. But my usual practice in class is to follow what I call the solo group share technique, which is first I give you, in this case, you're my practice students. I give you a minute to look at the photograph by yourselves. No talking. I realize in a class of children, it could be hard to stop the talking, but okay, not a big deal. But give everybody a minute just to look at the photo on their own, and then put them together in groups and have them talk about what they saw in the photo. And you can have a couple of questions ready, as I have for you. And then have a spokesperson from each group report to the class and share with the class what they talked about and discovered about the photo. So that's the technique we're going to practice, and you can put your responses in the chat box here. First question is, what do we see?
Good evening. Can you hear
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
me? Yeah. I see this picture and some people, it seems to be a crowded city.
Mhm,
And I think the elephant is lost. They run
mhm.
away from the zoo.
Okay, so
But people seems to be so quiet and not afraid. It's so
mhm. Okay, Sadberg, you're breaking up a
it
little bit,
seems
but
like the crowded.
mhm. So you've already posed a hypothesis or a possibility that the elephant is lost. But do we know? Well, we don't really know just yet. But let's focus on what we actually see. Possibly an underground. Many cities have walkways and shopping malls underground, connections to the metro or the subway. It's true, but do we don't know that just yet. This could be underground, it could be above ground. But we do see, yes, some fashionable people. Perhaps I'm not sure if those are real models or not, but of course the elephant and the people walking in the street. And yes, very good. Here are some of the vocabulary items you could be focusing on. the different kinds of people, men, women, the clothing that they're wearing, and including an umbrella. Somebody's got a sharp eye seeing the umbrella there in the window. Film about an escaping elephant. Again, another good hypothesis about what might be happening. But notice my language, what might be happening. Use of modals here is very important. And actually, that's the subject of my next webinar in 2 weeks. We'll focus more specifically on the use of modals in critical thinking. Okay, we have some predictions here. Yes, clothes, the style of the clothes. Now, some of these vocabulary items can give you some clues as to where this might be. For example, do you think this is a tropical country? It looks like people are wearing heavy overcoats. So yes, northern is a good guess. Perhaps from the look of the people, we can make other guesses that it might be in North or South America, Europe, Asia, could be all over, but it looks European or I'm sorry, or Scandinavian. Uh-huh. Very good. Okay. Now, let me just warn you, there's one piece of vocabulary here that is a little bit tricky, and that is when you look at the storefront. Notice here's a question you might ask. Which of these people are real people and which ones are not? Here we, of course, have the people walking in the street, and you could count them. You could do a little exercise with numbers. But also we have some figures in the window. To the left, if you can see my arrow, looks like the window designer for the shop. And she's looking out at the street scene. But also we have these storefront plastic models, which we call mannequins. Oops, I'm sorry. That's a high level word and not the most important for young learners, but for understanding this photo, sometimes you have to add a little bit of vocabulary just to understand the photo well. So in the next question, we might say, what simple structures for grammar could you be practicing here? Now, Nasiba wrote, a man walking in front of the elephant. Now here, this actually shows, yes,
Present.
present continuous. Thank you so much. Present continuous or present progressive. This is a tense you could be practicing. The man is walking, the elephant is walking, the woman is walking, these women are standing, these women are watching, this woman in the storefront, she is watching. So there you have several. This man, here's a negative, is not looking at the elephant. He is he's walking straight ahead. You can use kind of adverbs of direction, like the elephant is walking toward the man is walking toward the elephant. So you have a variety of, maybe not a great variety, but several structures. And here you could say the mannequins are not moving because they don't move. They're not real. This is a great one from Teacher Gulia. Thank you so much. Structure plus modal examples. This could be, oh, excellent. Could be a real elephant, or it might be a movie prop. Must be a busy city. Notice her use of modals here. This is a good inference. There are a lot of people on the street. They can't be scared. They're walking right up to the elephant. Very good. Continuous tenses. This is excellent. All good. Much of my presentation is in this chat box right here. The elephant is walking calmly. Notice what she's doing. You can have your students, perhaps this is a more intermediate level, write their own sentences about what is happening. So you can have them share this information orally, or you can have them write it down in sentences. The man in the puffer jacket. That's an interesting term, puffer jacket, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And people are watching from the background. Yes, this is a great opportunity. Thank you, Jumagul, for practicing. There is and there are. There is an elephant on the street. There are people on the street. There are mannequins in the shop window. And yes, lots of modal verbs. So we'll be practicing those modal verbs again in about 2 weeks. Thank you very much. That was really great. You guys definitely seem comfortable with this process, and sounds like some of you have done it often before. Now, just for a kind of general techniques for analysis, if this is something new for you, or if you want to take it a little further, you can break the photo into location, time, people, objects, or actions or activities. You can also simply ask what we call the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why. But also you want to add where appropriate, but almost always is. How do you know? How do you know these things? How sure of that are you? For example, let's go back to the location. Yes, some of you identified this as a busy street, and it could be Scandinavia or some northern country because people are dressed for the cold. And so I think that's good, and it's a good start. But do we really know where this photograph takes place? We do not. And do we really know why the elephant is on the street? No, we don't. Do we know if it's underground or above ground? No, we don't. Do we know what the time is? Well, we might know. It looks like daylight. And because it's a black and white photo, I think many students will say, well, it's old, it's historical, and that's somewhat true. I mean, it is old, but not as old as I am, so it's not super historical. But yes, we could talk about the people here, men and women. In the photo, they generally appear they're older. There are no children here, and also the mannequins that I mentioned and the storefront window and the actions of the people on the street. So again, after we ask these questions, we still don't know for sure what's going on here. Is this a movie of some kind? Is this elephant lost? Has this elephant escaped from the zoo? But why aren't the people worried about it? We don't know. Now, here are some photos, some questions that you could be asking for a more advanced or intermediate level. Now, the first one is what's going on in this picture? This is actually the name of a website where I found this photo, and I have the link for the website at the end of this presentation for you. And that these questions are suggested by the website. Number two, what do you see that makes you say that? Again, this is a little bit of a complex sentence for English language learners, but you could just say, why do you say that? What more can you find? And then other questions like, what do we know? How do we know? And again, I'm using that word know to imply that we feel pretty certain about it. And again, I see some very good questions in the and suggestions in the chat box that Mavluda. So you can teach prepositions as well. Yes, they are walking in the street. They're walking on the sidewalk, and so on. And then some very good questions from Fernando as well. What happened before? What's going to happen afterwards? I love those questions. Those are some of my favorite. What happened before is like the backstory, and what happens in the future. what's the prediction? And this is where students really sometimes enjoy creating their own stories about what happened before. How did the elephant get there? And what's the elephant going to do next? And what are the people doing? And yes, really great question here. Thank you so much. What would you do if you were walking down the street and you found an elephant coming toward you? I've wondered the same thing. Every time I look at this photo, I think, wow, I don't think I could act so, as we say, nonchalant as that man in the puffer jacket. And I see Don says, I'd like to take a photo with it. Yes, he doesn't look he looks like a young, or he or she, I don't know about the elephant's gender, but looks young and perhaps would be open to a photo. It doesn't look like he could hurt you too much. But here is the actual reveal. So you save the reveal, excuse me, for the very end, after you've gotten your students to talk about, not only what's happening, but perhaps what is this man thinking? What is this woman in the corner thinking? So you can actually get into the heads, the minds, speculate about the people in the photo. But here is at the end, you reveal what you know. An elephant was walking along 57th Street. This is in New York City. And the elephant also walked on Fifth Avenue. This is maybe the most famous shopping street in in New York City. It's where the most expensive stores are. The elephant was appearing in a movie, and behind the man came a man with a megaphone, something to make his voice really loud, and he kept going, "Please keep walking and react to the elephant," he shouted. But some of the people just did not react to the elephant. This is part of being a New Yorker, I think. And I'll extend that to residents of other big cities around the world. They see all kinds of strange things on the street, and they have trained themselves not to overreact. In fact, they may see what many of us consider to be something really surprising or unusual, and they'll act like it's just no big deal. So these were some of the reactions of New Yorkers to an elephant walking along 57th Street and Fifth Avenue. And again, if you can, I think you can see the date on there. It was published in the paper in 1980. So that was about 46, almost 46 years ago. Again, it's old, but to me, not that old. Yes, I like this again. Uh, Already interested to know more about this image? Yes. And Fernando is saying, you're not just describing the picture, but taking advantage of the image and let students in some way make them part of the photo and personalize the situation. Excellent. Now, here's one other option, and then I'll give you some time for some Q&A and show you some other of my reference slides. You can try to find another photo similar but slightly different. For example, this one here, we won't take too much time with it, but again, we can ask, where is this? What's happening? Again, I'll give you a minute to look at it. I'm going to compare it with one very similar, but not exactly the same. Okay, people reacting to the sunlight differently. Yes, it appears to be on a busy street for sure. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to go on to the next one, and then I'm going to put them side by side. But now look at this one. I'm sorry. I forgot to show you this one. So again, you can break the photo into part location. Looks like a busy street. Time. It's daytime. We don't know when exactly, but these look like fairly modern people, and we don't see too many objects, though there is. Let's see. If you go to the full picture, you actually do see something. See that bag that says JD? I had no idea what JD was until a student told me maybe 2 months ago. He said, that's a sports store in London. So that gives you an idea that this might be happening in the UK. But again, who, what, when, where, you can ask these questions and ask with what certainty. Hmm. It does look like people are saluting, but are they actually? Okay, now here's another version of the photo. Do you see any differences here? And for classroom purposes, you can put them side by side. Okay, that's a good guess in Oxford Street during lunchtime. But what would you say is the major difference, if you can see one, between these two photos? Again, good guess. Scandinavians happy to enjoy sunlight. Something interesting that attracts their attention. All right, very good. Now here, I think one of the most interesting differences is actually this man in the center of this photo. Notice here, almost everybody's smiling. This guy not smiling so much, but obviously, I think, enjoying the sunlight. These people smiling, maybe shielding themselves, but this guy's not smiling. He's not shielding himself. He doesn't look like he's enjoying the moment. He seems to be lost in thought. He's not reacting, he's not looking up. So this makes him the mystery man of the photo. And here again, this provides an opportunity for you and your students to wonder, what is he thinking? What might he be thinking about? Now, is this a useful skill? I think you would agree, yes. If we're training future workers, future managers, future leaders in our communities, we want them to imagine themselves in other people's shoes and wonder what they're thinking about so that they can anticipate problems or anticipate challenges, social challenges. Yes, very good. The man in the gray suit stay in the middle, not enjoying the moment, looks kind of strict, and yeah, perhaps a stubborn person. This is a really nice guess here. It could be the light of an unidentifying object if they were flying object with a UFO, if they're not smiling. So nice. Okay. I'm in the interest of time, I'm going to just move on here. I will reveal this one in just a moment. But again, I want to repeat, photographs often pose more questions than they answer. We really don't know where that photo takes place. We don't know who those people are. We don't know why they're either shielding themselves or smiling and taking in the heat. We just don't know. So these particular photos are not so reliable about conveying information, but they're very useful for generating hypotheses. And therefore, students do often enjoy creating narratives about what might be happening or who the people are, what their backstory is, or what they might be feeling or thinking. Here's the original caption for this one from November 2013. Too much sun in London? People looking up at a new skyscraper. Maybe you've seen this or seen pictures of it. It's called the walkie-talkie. But the glare off the building's skin or outside structure is so intense that it apparently melted part of a Jaguar, a car parked nearby. Bloomberg News reported in London's walkie-talkie fry scraper draws crowds and heat that the beam of light radiating off the three-story building was measured at more than 110 degrees Celsius. Now, I don't recall if I mentioned or accidentally skipped a slide, but for selecting the photos, again, you want to find a photo that, of course, has nothing inappropriate, either sexual or violence, but something that is also somewhat mysterious, we say open-ended, so that you have plenty to talk about. Now, just briefly before we wrap up here, some of the language that you could be using when you talk about critical thinking, quantifiers are very important. For example, these tend to overstate when you say everybody's doing this, nobody's doing this. Well, it's not true. If you look at just those photos, there are different reactions. Some is safest, and in between, you might have little or few or much or many. Frequency adverbs, uh, the ones that overstate, always or never. Safest, sometimes, and there's occasionally or regularly. In between, seldom or often. Again, these are seldom meaning negatively, often a little more positively. We'll talk a little bit more in 2 weeks about modals of probability. Will can overstate. You cannot say something will prevent cancer. Might is much safer for that, or could, safer. Strongest, and we had an example, I think teacher Gulia had this example before. If something must be true, the example I often use, A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. I'll come back to that in about 2 weeks. For intermediate levels, you could be, yes, looking at modals, looking at words that express degrees of certainty, like probably, certainly, passives. Uh, when we say in the U.S., lawyers are trained to listen for passives. When somebody uses a passive voice, sometimes it means they're hiding the agent. Linking verbs like seems and appears are a little bit weaker. You have transitions and logical connectors. These are for your reference later, so I'm just going to go through these quickly. Adverb clause connectors showing cause or contrast. And my favorite, conditionals. If I were a bird, I could fly over the ocean. These are really fun to deal with in class. And intensifiers, you very, extremely, or qualifiers like somewhat or maybe. And of course, comparisons and contrasts are very, very useful for critical thinking as well. For higher level language learners, you have more sophisticated logical connectors, consequently, therefore, adverb clause connectors and prepositions, conditionals, hypotheticals. And then we get into some of the reporting verbs like the author believes that, the author suggests that. These indicate a lack of certainty. And then the intensifiers, the qualifiers, and then numerical hedges or qualifiers. As when I say there were as many as 50 people at the conference, means I don't know exactly how many. I'm speculating. Other possibility versus certainty signals that students might hear or that you might encourage them to use in class, modals of possibility or versus modals of certainty, linking verbs of possibility versus certainty, adverbs of possibility versus certainty, reporting verbs. I feel, I think, I'm guessing, I know shows or certainty. And in conclusion, let me acknowledge, as I'm sure many of you are aware, that critical thinking is much harder in a second language because the learner is encountering ambiguity in reading and in listening, and the speaker, the writer must be clear and precise. Remember, if you're the writer, you imagine the reader on your shoulder wondering, how certain is that? How sure of you are you of that statement? Whether critical thinking is the main focus of a lesson or a side story in a grammar or vocabulary lesson, it can deepen student cognitive and emotional engagement in the material. It can be practiced at all English proficiency levels. Even if you've got a class of third graders or fourth graders just starting out, you can ask them many, not all, but many of these same questions. And photographs are especially useful tools for practicing not only language targets, but I'm sorry, but creative thinking and critical thinking. These are the references I mentioned. This is the sequence of critical thinking tasks. And then here's the link to this picture. Uh, I'm not sure. I've tried to find out if you really need to have an account with the New York Times. This is the considered our most important newspaper in the United States. It's the official paper of historical record. I did want to show you this website if I can, but let's see what happens if I actually have it open for you here if I can. Yeah, okay. Let me just show it to you very, very quickly. So here's the link. If you're new to this, they have a nice introduction to what's going on in this picture on the right. They have some techniques how to teach with what's going on in this picture. Again, I think that all teachers can have access. It's something called the Learning Network, but I'm not sure of that. But I think, again, with the internet today, you will find many possible sites for finding pictures that are, yes, a little bit mysterious, a little bit fun, a little bit ambiguous, things that do stimulate student discussion. Okay, so I know we're running short. If anybody has any other questions for me,
Yeah.
please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Bruce. Yeah, it was really informative and engaging. Like, yeah, I hope that, yeah, uh, the audience enjoyed it so much. And also just, yeah, from the interaction in the chat box, I can see that we have really great appreciation for you. Yeah, some
Thank
people
you.
already sharing. Amazing webinar. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Mr. Bruce. It's a lot appreciated. So, and also Fernando, he's asking a question. What are common mistakes teachers make when using images in class, and how can we avoid them?
That's a difficult question. I think common mistakes might be uh, first using a photograph that is really not appropriate, or perhaps using a photograph that's too obvious, if there's nothing really happening and it's easy to decode or figure out, that might not be so great. You want something that's a little bit mysterious, that again invites the creation of new narratives. Uh, I think that's the main thing. Now, the only other mistake I can think of really is if you, as the teacher, reveal too much about the photo too soon. You're the only one who will know what the photo really is, and you want to be careful not giving away any clues before your students have a chance to look at it. So again, I think the most important mistake would be not to let your students have a chance to assess the photo, analyze it on their own first, and then give them a chance to talk about it with their friends in the groups that you create, and then talk about it as a class, and then reveal what you wish to reveal. So I think as long as you follow a process like that, you'll get the most benefit from the exercise.
Yes, we will definitely share PPT once Mr. Bruce shares the PPT with us. I think you shared, I
I,
guess.
I did.
Yeah.
I
And
sent it
we'll
to
be
Zero.
yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be sharing. Don't worry, we'll be sharing all the usually we do. The recording of the webinar will be still on Facebook, and then you can watch it on our YouTube channel. But the PPT we will be sharing via EW website. So yes, once it's posted there, we will inform you in our Telegram group. Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Rubin, if to link it to AI, so I know that sometimes like finding all these photos on the internet could be challenging. Why? Because of the copyright issues, because of the privacy issues. Yeah, these are something that had to find out right now. I mean, just because the protection, the intellectual property protection is quite global thing. What do you think about using AI generated photos?
Thank you so much for mentioning that. I've done it a couple times. So far, I've actually enjoyed using AI for various purposes in class, and I have tried generating a couple of photos on my own. They didn't come out exactly how I wanted them to, and it can take a little time to make one that really works for you. But I think that's going to be a really great option going forward. Just as you say, Nasiba, there are a lot of copyright issues, privacy issues, restrictions on what kind of photos you can show in class. Some cultures don't want any photos with children in them and at all, things like that. So yes, with AI, I had a student, I told her, create a photo for me with two kittens in a field of flowers. And instantly she did that. So I think many of us will find AI to be a useful tool for generating materials, just as your professor showed two weeks ago in that webinar. And I think the same will be true for generating photos as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rubin. And maybe one last question. Mavluda is asking, she's watching us from Facebook, and she's asking, do you teach critical thinking as a separate subject, or do you integrate it to other subjects?
You know, for most of my career, it was always just integrated into other subjects. But one day, my boss, the supervisor of the program where I was teaching English at the university, she called me into the office and she says, "What do you think about teaching a class in critical thinking?" And my first reaction was, "What? Why would I do that? I do critical thinking all the time." It was really weird to me, but my professional ethic is just say yes. So I said yes, and I tried it, and I've been teaching critical thinking classes off and on now for about 10, 12 years, which are specifically called critical thinking for English language learners at the university level. And yes, you can teach it as a discrete, separate class, and it's quite interesting. But I think for most of us, we won't have that opportunity, and you just look for every opportunity you can to inject critical thinking into your language classes? But the answer is yes. I have taught it as a separate class. It could be a separate class.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, Sadbark, I also saw your hands being raised. So if you want to unmute yourself and share quickly what you wanted to say, just go ahead.
I, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can, but your voice is on and off.
Miss Maulud, Mrs. Mauluda. Can hello.
Hello. Yeah,
Hello.
please go ahead.
Now, can you hear me? Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I often use photos in my class uh, here in rural area. It's very important to use it because it is very important to use image because sometimes when you say the translation of vocabulary into English or when you say into Russian or Tajik or when you say the definition, student may not understand the object because or thing because they haven't experienced it. Let's bring in
Mhm.
as an example sushi. When you say sushi, it's kind of Japanese food. Students
Mhm.
may not understand the meaning because they haven't tried it here because we don't have Japanese restaurants here in the village. But when you show them the image of that food, they say, "Oh, we have seen it on TV, or we have seen the kind of film they eat with chopsticks, they understand it. And I also use image for comparing comparing adjectives, prepositions, present continuous conditions, and my students really like it. I have a lot of visual learners in my class, and they really like when I bring kind of pictures for warm-ups where they discuss something, and was very interesting topic for me to know how we can use this in the context of critical thinking. Thank you so much, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you.
Robert, yeah. Thank you so much for that suggestion. I just wanted to say one thing. Yes, I used to teach in a time when we couldn't use photos very easily in the classroom. We didn't have computer connections. We did have sometimes binders with photographs that we could pull out, but they were very small. So when I used to teach food vocabulary, I actually had a big box of rubber chicken, rubber egg, rubber vegetables, rubber apples and fruit. So I used to, if I don't think we had a plastic sushi back then, even. I don't know if anybody in America knew what sushi was, but that's a nice example. Photographs can definitely help your students understand something with which they have little contact in real life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bruce. And yeah, let's give one more chance. And Fernando, please unmute yourself and and then we will wrap up. Thank you.
Professor Robin, thank you so much for the amazing webinar. It's just something really, really fast. I shared a book from a long, long time ago. Probably you've heard about it. It's called Take Your Pick. I shared a link with the book. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. It has a
Thank you.
collection of lots of activities. Basically what you were talking about using pictures. This book was published, if I'm not mistaken, in 1990. So
Mhm.
it's almost impossible to find it. It's really, really interesting. Thanks once more. I had a wonderful time.
Thank you so much, Fernando. Your comments were right on and really informative, and I will definitely check out that book. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Fernanda. So Fernanda is generous person who shares all the materials with teachers from all over the world, and he has his WhatsApp group. So he shares different teaching materials. Thank you so much, Fernando. And once again, our big appreciation for everyone who participated today in our investment time. Yes, EWB Thursday webinar series, and of course, yeah, our huge thanks to our speaker, Mr. Rubin. Thank you so much. And we look forward to your next webinar in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Dear
Thank you,
all.
Nassim. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.